Hello everyone and welcome to my oil painting class. And today we are painting Selby Abbey. It's our last session before Christmas, so I'd like us to get into Christmassy spirit, choral singing, lovely festive lights from the Gothic cathedral, Abbey Church, and just get some extra improvisation done, perhaps with some festive lights, with some improvised lights as well. So I'd like us to explore a little bit more on the color side rather than just go for the exact picture we have on the photograph. I also have a black and white image, which I just taken my photograph in Word document, and there's very simple black and white cutout, I think, function. And it's just given me a very basic understanding of what's going to be black, what's going to be light. So it's simplified it for us so we can think of the back wall perhaps darker, side wall slightly lighter, and then we can improvise for extra highlights. Yeah, it gives us that very simple plan of tones. Now I'm using the ochre background. Sorry, I've got two different ochres here, but it doesn't matter because this is going to be my sketch. And let's also give you an example. It doesn't matter if your background is slightly different to mine. Any varieties will be lovely. The ochre background will support us with painting all that lovely stone, that Yorkshire light sandstone. It will give us a lovely base for it. Now, on my palette, I have titanium white, buff titanium, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, ochre, cadmium red or orange, either would be good, magenta or ruby, anything pink, alizarin crimson, deep violet. So these are my warm colors. And from the cool colors, I have ultramarine, blue gray, emerald green, phthalo green, Windsor green, viridian. All of those will be fine. Cerulean blue and Payne's gray. I'd like to start with a little sketch so we can plan a bit of a rhythm within our painting, looking at some of the vertical lines. And also, before we explore our color, I want us to plan maybe 3 tones. So I'm going to use my ochre background as a medium darkness. I'm going to apply something lighter, okay, and then I'm going to apply a darker tone. So I might just go for white, and then I want to have a little plan of our future options for our 3 main tones, okay, using some warm and cool colors. All right, so first I'm going to use some tapes, and let's use a little bit of violet, diluted violet. Okay, and let's plan our big shapes. Now, complex architectural interior, but let's break it down. Let's find the back wall where our window is, our stained glass window is. Now, the camera does loads of changes of angles, loads of the windows a little bit leaning, the arches a little bit leaning. So I'm going to keep my vertical lines vertical first. Okay. So that will come out a bit more close. And then I'm going to plan the back of the window, where that whole part of that niche of the altar wall. Okay, and that's somewhere here, it's finishing off. This side, the right-hand side, is actually going to continue. My photograph is just missing tiny bit of that wall, which I can see here on my black and white version. I think when I printed a photo, it just cropped it a little. So the back wall is actually continues there, but we don't see it as much. Okay, so my window is going to come up somewhere here, but it's going to be inside of that back wall. Okay, so that could have been my side wall. That's kind of staying coming up towards us. Just going to do it like that so we can see that's one of the walls. I think that vertical might just drop it a little further back on the left. Gain a tiny bit of space. Okay. And I'm going to plan where my the column has the capitals, a group of capitals, a group of slender columns together. It's almost in line with the top of my wall here, so about somewhere this side. Okay, and there is another wall, capitals, another column, maybe halfway through not halfway through the window, but a little bit just above halfway through the window. That gives me an opportunity to see that line of the wall in front of us. Okay, and it's also will give me that line. So we've got loads of verticals here, vertical, verticals, and that slanted line. Might need to go tiny bit more steeper, because will go tiny bit together. That's what I needed that for. My chunky lines a little bit harder to see. Okay, another one somewhere here. We can't quite see the floor here because it's right in front of us. We're really close to it, so I'm going to keep with that straight line across. And then we're going to plan the arch above that side, the left-hand side. So that's going to be a big, wide arch. And there is also an arch that way, side arch here somewhere. We only see a little bit of it. I don't want you to worry about the perspectives there because it's all going to get hidden. And we're mainly going to look into light and dark in a moment. The other element I'd like us to use is a little bit of structure for the ceiling. I'm going to put a almost straight line, maybe just very gentle, leaning towards the left at the top, starting a little bit towards the left at the top, and then that will stretch out into a range of patterns. Again, I don't want you to worry about them. There's a narrow arch and there's a shallower arch. There's a very shallow arch, and then there's again narrow arch. So that one and the next one is above. The other ones are more or less of a different structural element. So if you were just to put a straight line, I put few simple directions, arches, that would be fine. Right, and what I'm going to do next, I'm going to plan my tones. I'm going to use my violet And I'm going to look at my black and white design here, and I'm going to plan an overall key strategic darkness points. Now, most of the ceiling will need to be dark, so anything I've painted there, that structure might just go. Quite like those two shapes being left. Okay, they might not be as bright on our painting, but for now, as we're just going for 3 darknesses, that will be sufficient enough. Now everything on the back wall is going as well. So I'm combining all of that. And as I'm coming to the right hand side, that becomes a little bit more chopped into, because there will be some light here. You can chop into some of these ones. There will be that light coming in through the Gothic patterns. And on the left hand side, I think I might bring that little pattern of darkness at the top. So then we see something happening behind. We see a big window behind there, but we also have all sorts of other patterns in there. So I'm going to leave them out. Perhaps tiny bit of darkness through some of the windows, but some of the windows might have some light actually there. So that's going to stay there. Right, floor-wise, okay, my column might be darker as well. Floor-wise, I think what the picture picked up are some shadows of different objects, praying chairs, candle holders, little benches. So I might just put something so to almost break down that perfect block of light. Okay. And now the light. So if I were to pick up some white as a basic plan, as a basic, just need a thinner brush for it. As a plan of light. So we can put some obvious lights on the window, the stained glass window, and I can break it down into patterns. At the moment, this is just the basic blocks. Okay. And I can also pick up some extra highlights of the big altars window. The key light might be coming through there. Okay. And also I would like to use a little bit of extra light. I'm just going to use tiny bit of ochre and white with it. Because I have a lot of violet in the corner where I'm going to put it. So white mixed with violet will give me a pinky color. So if I'll go for a bit of ochre, it might just give me a little bit of paler color somewhere here. Oops. Okay, so that might be from the side, yeah. So we can turn around. If we walk that way, we can then turn here. It's the back of the Abbey church. Get a bit of light coming through there, perhaps. And some of our windows might have a little bit of light there as well. And in the Abbey Church, we have artificial light. So it's not just a light which is coming through the windows. It's a bit of artificial light. So we can plan perhaps some extra light somewhere at the front here. Our little sketch gives us an opportunity to plan that light, do put it a bit more taller and then getting shorter. It's almost like keeping everything within our picture. I can plan a little bit of light perhaps on this side. It doesn't have to be white, but it might have a little connection to some texture, or maybe it will be partially medium darkness as well. So that's my opportunity to have a little plan. Okay, that's all good. Okay, that's might be interesting. A little bit of plan of light as well. Okay. This is quite an inviting light. I quite like that one. Good. So we have 3 basic lights here. I'll make a bigger. Give me a second. I'll pick up a marker pen. So if we had some white, some ochre, and some violet as our main tones here, okay. Now I'd like to subdivide our colors into warm and cool colors of a similar darkness. Yeah, 2 of the lights, 2 of the medium, 2 of the darks. Okay, and this is some of the basic starting points of our shapes. Okay, sorry, I just got myself into a lot of paint around the side of the tissue. Okay, so for example, when we start painting, our white could be warmer or it could be cooler. So if I were to look at my buff titanium, that's more likely to be a warmer one. I could have put also other option. So that's when we start planning even more things. I could have also used Naples yellow. So I've got 2 options here without even mixing color. And my cool color option, if I'll just pick up another brush. There we go. Might be my blue-gray. Okay. My blue-gray could have had a hint of emerald green or a little bit of violet in it. Yeah. So we can have more and more varieties of cool colors and more varieties of warm colors. But for the moment, let's just stay with one. Now, medium darknesses. Now, the range is great here. So I might have had some of my ochre, which we already had here. I can mix my ochre with a small amount of cadmium red or cadmium orange. Okay, could have a more of a reddish color. You can just about see it on the screen. Okay. Or could have had a hint of pink, pinky violet, maybe more towards the pink. So this is quite a dark color. So if I were to use a little bit of extra white. Okay. So it's a different type of color here. Sorry, it's a bit small. Maybe I should have made it a little bit bigger. But those are all my medium darknesses. Yeah, they're slightly different in tone, but they're very different in color. But they're overall within the same dark tone. Right, for my mid-tone, for my cool colors, I could start with my blue-gray. If you don't have blue-gray, use a bit of white and a little bit of blue and a dab of black. Okay, but if you don't have the blue-gray, you can just increase the volume of blue in the color here. So this is my ultramarine. Okay, it's getting, no, it doesn't quite show much difference. I don't want it to be too dark. Okay, within that dark category. Could also mix it, my blue-gray, with a bit of emerald green. But what I also want to try mixing it with my buff titanium. And that will be not green, but it's almost like a grayish darkness. So then it's not just, I don't want our cathedral church, Abbey church being all blue and red, which would be quite exciting, but maybe a bit more subtones of colors as well. So buff titanium or a bit of ochre and ultramarine and white, that would have done the trick. Okay, could be a darker version. Now, at the moment, my version here is much similar to my lighter tone. So I could have made it slightly darker. Okay, maybe just using a bit more stronger ochre. So that color could have gone to my options of lighter tones. That's better. Okay. And I could have mixed anything with a little bit of violet, yeah? My blue-gray and a bit of violet. And that will look more of a cooler color as well, because it's got loads of gray in it, a bit more into the blue side of things. And then for the darker tones, I'm going to start with my cooler colors now, because I have quite a lot of paint on my brush here. So anything, very little white, if any. But maybe not just direct colors, not just direct ultramarine, but mixed with or emerald green or whatever the palette color we had. If you want to use Payne's Gray, just aim for an indigo type of outcome. Okay, don't make it just as a black tone. Sorry, it's a bit reflecting here. Let's see if I do it that way. Excellent, that's better. For my warm colors here, I want to use my crimson, alizarin crimson, and tiny bit of Payne's Gray. Those two mix really well. Have more red than black, and that gives us a wonderful warm darkness. Of course, the violet will come to that as well. Again, maybe not direct violet. I'm just going to try to get fresher red into my color. Okay, just so you can see the color a little bit better. If I have a tiny bit of white in it, you might see the color better than just black appearance. Okay. And now violet. If we use it runny, if we want to have that type of color, yeah, we can use direct violet against the ochre background. If we want to mix it, sorry, if we want it not transparent, maybe mix it again with the alizarin crimson, maybe with the ultramarine, maybe a dab of ochre. That will give us some lovely, exciting varieties. Okay, so I've got lighter colors, medium darknesses, and darker tones, yeah? And I've got the warm colors and I've got the cool colors. And we can make more and more varieties. And in each painting, we're very much looking for this type of breakdown, but in some of the paintings, we'll look for more colors close to, let's say, blue side. Some of them more to the sandstone side, so I might mix more ochres with my blues and greens and grays. Okay, maybe I'll have less pinks, maybe I'll have more neutralized colors, less saturated with pigment. So in different paintings, we might have that variety changing, or there might be a key color which will dominate certain shapes. Right, so I'm happy with that. I've got a bit of an idea of what's going to be happening. So let's do a drawing for our actual painting. So I'm going to start again with my violet. And I'm going to do a very similar thing. I'm going to find out the back wall with that window at the back. Okay. I think it might be a bit too tall. If in doubt, put few more verticals. Okay, they don't attach it to anything, but they're becoming that structure. Okay, we've got a few verticals going that side. Yeah. And that wall continues there. I can plan my window. And tweak my wall on the back as well. I'm quite happy with very basic placement of shapes because we might still move things about. Okay. Then the top of the column at the back is somewhere where our window start having a it's not horizontal line. It's where the flower pattern shapes almost start in there. So that's a bit of the break for the columns there. And then somewhere here, maybe not quite all the way to the top of that window. Not so much the window, sorry, that back of the wall. We have a group of capitals. Okay, I might be looking a little bit too wide. I'm just simplifying them in the box, but it gives me that placement. So I can think of the arch. Okay, so an arch in a light, an arch in a shadow. And you can send some of those lines away after. So those will be my columns, verticals. And for this column, between this column and that column, there will be an arch, but we mainly see one side of it. Okay. Right, and then let's find an approximate floor direction. Yeah, is that line going up or down? It goes up. And the same from here. This probably line, yeah, starts, that's kind of the true view of it, looking directly at it, yeah. And then that line continues somewhere here as well. Although we haven't got anything here, we've got a gap there between, we can walk there. And then there is another slightly higher base. So this is where we have, again, make it a bit shallower. Okay, some of these lovely patterns. So I'm keeping all my verticals straight on. They're not leaning like they are on a photograph. Keep them on a straight lines. If some of my verticals are a little bit leaning, it's not deliberately. I want them to be straight. Okay. You can have a column here, a bit of a base for it. You know what, I think that needs to be going down. I haven't got as much floor space as I thought. Ah, it's my picture is a bit elongated as well. Right, so definitely dropping this one down because I'm looking at the space between the columns. So first of all, I can change my floor a little bit here. If it would have been coming that way. Secondly, I can drop my window a little bit more here. That still works. Let's find that symmetry here. Okay. The line's a little bit wobbly. They're provisional lines. When we start doing the big shapes of color, that's when we can correct them. That's why I have loads of lines here. I know some of them will have to go. Okay, that's better. And then that ceiling line, so that's my floor continues there. That one's a bit more here. Okay, that's a bit better. It's a bit more dropped, and this one as well. Just drop it down a little. Right, and my ceiling line, that center line, I'm gonna make it almost a straight vertical, just gently, gently leaning. That would be more fun. So then a very narrow triangle-like shape. From the sides, it's almost a straight lines coming in, and there is something coming from that arch in. Okay. We'll lose these lines, so just take them out first. And this is very sharp triangle. Then there's a shallower triangle. And then the next one is a very, again, narrow one like this one, but we just don't see exactly where it's finishing off. And on the right hand side, we've got on the left hand side, we have an arch opening going that way. The opposite wall will have a similar structure, but it might have a window there. So if we'll mirror that shape, that should be enough. And then this will be all in the shadow there anyway, so that will be all good. All right. A couple of more things. Behind the arch, remember we've done that lovely shadow? We can draw that as well, so we're not going to forget it. So that might come in somewhere here. And there are some structures, these lovely tops, Gothic little towers. Now you can do them as much as you want, as little as you want. I'm going to have a suggestion on them rather than painting them all in details. You can see 3 of them there. Yeah, they will have a very sharp perspective to them. So one is super tall, 2 ones getting slightly shorter. Okay, if the proportion of the layout slightly changed, don't worry about it. I think I can make my window slightly bigger. Don't worry about if the proportion overall changed for you. Just have your own design. As long as it's looking believable, I'm not too worried if it's going to be looking identical to Selby's Abbey chapel at the back or not. Okay, it might have been a wider corridor, it might have been a narrower corridor. Some of these ones will come here as well. But we can work with that after. Good, I'm going to stop at that. All the furniture, other details will have to be suggestive and edit as they come, as we work in certain areas. I just divide my window into 3, so to help me out when I start. That proportion of shapes is already there. This is not quite that I'm making it up. I'm not actually observing it. Okay, now I'm going to observe it. Okay, might be a little bit big than needed. But that's more giving me the structure there. Another reason for doing it earlier on is when I want to paint in light inside of these boxes. I already will have some of the darkness, so I can just shrink that window frame to the stained glass, rather than think of doing the precise lines and then the light and then the color we wanted to add. So lots of things might be at stake then. Right, my drawing's finished. Let's wash the brushes and let's start planning our 3 tones and identify the right colors to each place. Right, the more I look at my photograph, the more I see similar color and similar darknesses, and it's very confusing of what's happening there. Looking at my sketch, things are much more clearer. And the same as looking at my tonal study. It's a little bit messy because my strokes are not quite there yet. Some of them are a bit too wide, some of them are a little bit more like an abstract little mark making. So this black and white study, yeah, gives me a study recording of my photograph, got a better understanding of what we're going to create. So like in our small painting study, I'd like to start with our dark tones. So I'm going to have a bigger brush and I'm going to have some runnier color. And I will start with my very darks, warm colors and cool colors. So let's plan where we want to have some warm colors and where we're going to have some cool colors. Now, we can make things up and decide, okay, one area's got this color, another area got another one, okay? But we can also start thinking of what these colors are going to be bordering. So for example, the shadow here is bordering perhaps a warmer light. Some of the midtones here might have midtones to dark tones. I can see some lovely coolness in here. So let's make this part of the shadow cooler. So perhaps the top part of the big blocks of darkness might be warmer. Okay. So anytime we see a stronger color, for example, I can see some warmer color on this column. So can I have some more opposite contrast color next to it? Okay, where it's possible. Might not always be possible. So I'm going to start with my cool colors so that I can see more of them. Right, just need to soften my brush. Been a bit stiff. So let's go for some ultramarine. Let's go for a little bit of Payne's Gray. Okay, nice and watery. More blue than black. Okay, I'm just staining my palette so I don't see as much blue there, but that's okay. So let's block everything now. A rougher brush will give us extra texture within our painting. Okay, so don't be scared of using that. I'm going not the most dark colors yet. I'm going to add even darker tones, but let's start with something a little bit lighter. So we've got the room for darkness. Now also, As I put few strokes on my ochre background, the school color is starting to look more greenish, okay? Because ochre is quite powerful background. So I'm gonna go and add a little bit of alizarin crimson. So maybe my cool color will go through more violety type of color or through more of the emerald green color. Okay, so let's blend some of this here. And let's find these two highlights. There might be more, maybe more here. Okay, but this side definitely could stay darker. And I'm just gonna add lighter version of the darkness all on that side of the wall. And a little bit of the shine. So I'm using very diluted color here, so I can just about see my earlier lines, and some of that structure is not totally lost. It is quite good to see those shapes if we can. So runnier paint is desirable here because we can make it lighter. Right, and I'm back to my crimson. Okay, so let's paint this side. Sorry, I should have been using my oils. I've started using terps and I've forgotten to switch. That runny oil surface will also give us advantages for later. Okay, for adding thicker paint, for adding a little bit more opaque color. This is quite nice, I like that. Gonna emphasize a bit more of that darkness here. Oil also gives extra viscosity to our paint and influence how thick it is or how runny it is within time. As it's settling in, it might give us some streaks, some exciting texture. So stay with it, see what's going to happen. Imperfections and shapes will slowly start catching up with us, but we'll stay with the tone, and that will be partially lost as well. Okay, so mainly warm colors for me here. I left some of the coolness maybe for some of the lines of the ceiling, maybe the bottom here. I think that warm color will also come on this side, warm shadow. A little bit of warmth, perhaps in the windows. Maybe a little bit of that part of the column base. Can just see some lovely shadows. Okay. Right. anything else slightly darker? I think I can just a little bit come closer to this side, and perhaps my shadow on the column here might just have a little bit of coolness in it. I'll add more lighter tones in there so that my back wall reads better. And anything else we wanted to have as darker parts of furniture, as darker shadows. Okay. Yeah. Lovely. So my darks are in place. I can wipe my brush and start planning my midtones. So these are lovely transparent layers. Let them settle in. Right, next, let's keep our medium darkness as ochre background for now. Let's now take out a focus on light. Most, what will be in that white category. So we're looking for these colors and any other varieties. But let's find which areas are going to be warmer colors and which ones are going to be cooler colors. Now, I'm looking at two main light areas, that window and our central window. I would like to make my central window warmer because I want to use some more stained glass color, and there will be more reds and yellows perhaps. So maybe the overall feel for the window is going to be warmer. So based on that, that light will have to be cooler. Let's give that one a go. So smaller brush. I'm gonna go for, I don't have to go for very light tone, like white. Okay, white could come up right at the top. Plus, if you do want to have some stained glass on, it might end up not being so bright. So I'm gonna go for something a little bit on a slightly darker side. So I'm gonna start with Naples yellow and some cadmium red. Okay, if you were to add a little bit of cadmium yellow, your orange will be bright and bolder. And I might start with that lovely orangey color and then bring some more, much more duller and more whitish colors after. So let's just put a little bit of that color in few places, as my window, first of all, is quite mucky. So that's might just clean up a little bit of some of the areas. And we'll shorten my window frame spaces as well. Okay, some of them. And maybe a little bit on the side here. The more maple yellow you'll use, the lighter you will have your window. I'm not using white. Maple yellow does the trick. Makes the color opaque and makes the color much lighter at the same time. Okay. So I tweaked my window here as well. So I'm almost bringing it back to my ochreish background. Slightly different saturation of yellow in it and red, but it has kind of similar type of color. Now if I'll go for more direct cadmium red or cadmium orange, we can plan a little bit of that stained glass feel. Okay, maybe a bigger stroke and a smaller stroke, maybe a few dabs. So far I wanted to have just a little variety. Okay, and I'm also testing out how my colors will work, and I also will test my direct Naples yellow. So as we're talking about warm colors, I don't know if my Naples yellow is light enough to make that window glow. So perhaps a small amount of white. It's not going to be a pure white because my brush is not clean. It might just give me enough to test if this is the effect we want. Yeah, it started to have a little more of a glow. But overall, the whole window is appearing much more warmer. The white will make the window a little bit cooler, a little bit towards that paler pink. So if I were to use Naples yellow with a small amount of white, I think it would be a slightly warmer feel. Okay, just doing a little bit of testing of playful marks. The window doesn't have to be perfectly straight. We can come back to its frame. What you can do if you were to narrow down some of the window frame, those middle gaps, that would be good. So I tend to have a little play there. But if it still reads as a shape of light and dark, that's fantastic. Right, so something's going on there. And for my cooler color, for my light, I can go for my Payne's Gray, blue-gray as a starting point, but I think I'll go for a lighter version of it. So if I'll go for a bit of white, blue-gray. If you don't have blue-gray, use white, a little bit of ultramarine or cerulean blue, and minuscule amount of black. But I'm also thinking of using a small amount of emerald green here. And that's another option color for me here. I'll do it like that, it might reflect less. Emerald green with Payne's Gray. So some of that light is going to be coming through here. I can go for more of a straight arch first, and then I'm almost finding gaps between those intricate Gothic patterns of the little towers. Decorative pointy shapes here. Maybe it will find its way down in a few places, maybe not everywhere. And I will add a small amount of darker and lighter tones to it as well. Small hints. So for example, a tiny dab of cerulean and an extra tiny dab of emerald green might just give me that little variety within that color. And again, it's a stained glass window of the altar. But this time, if I were painting a little bit more precisely here, because I can see the window, here we've got light. It's stained glass window or not, we're just seeing the light. So I might stay within the light shape there. Okay. Now, what's our black and white photograph picked up? That light is going all the way to that shadow. When I'm looking at the photograph, there is a bit of width of the building as it's showing the width of it, of the building, to offset the window. So I might use similar colors but slightly darker version of them. Just a slightly darker version, ultramarine of cerulean blue with a little bit of emerald green, or phthalo green, or viridian, whichever you have. And I'm going to paint this area here. As there would have been that width of the wall. Okay. And some of this light even will come here. So we'll slowly start binding some of these colors coming in and out. So now I'm on the middle darknesses. I've got my lights, yeah. So now I'm going to my middle tones, middle versions. So while I've got this color, can I find it elsewhere? Can I find now rhythm of the colors? Okay, so that might be somewhere here as well. Maybe a darker version, lighter version, greener version, bluer version. I want to go a bit more into the violet. The violet is already present in a few places, so that's good. These lovely arches might pop out. I'm going to start just a tiny bit more looking for the color. Okay, maybe some of the gaps or just part of the stonework next to the windows picks up on some of that light. So it's a rhythm of pattern, a rhythm of color. Maybe it will come up even somewhere here. Again, can I make it slightly more towards the blue? Right, and I can see quite a lot of that color on the floor. So from our existing color, can I smudge a little bit of my current one? And I think I also can go for more emerald green. I used a little bit of white, but I could have just gone for blue-gray, whichever you have more. Okay, can just apply it straight away. I think I need the white only because I want it slightly lighter, that floor, somewhere here. Then we have a little bit of a range of light and dark here as well. And maybe going again slightly darker, or even maybe a hint of violet with it. As my wall, you can start seeing the bottom of the wall here. Okay, a little bit flat in color. Maybe I can liven it up a bit. Okay, and maybe even lift some of that thick paint and see a little bit of ochre there as well. Okay. Only want a little hint of it showing. Good. Now my furniture is gone. Maybe I'll bring it back afterwards. Right, anything else? This cooler medium darkness. Yeah, any of these ones? Okay, can we go again for that bluey gray? Anything else fresh in color? Maybe on my column somewhere here. Okay, anything else I can see from my sketch? Okay, so perhaps seeing a darker version of this blue green, maybe a slightly deeper turquoise. Okay, it didn't quite come out deeper. Let's make it quite a lot of whitish color on my painting. So I need to wipe my brush and apply a stronger color. Yeah. Okay, good. And as we have all these lovely colors on the walls, we might have some of it translating into our part of the ceiling. So a little hint on the wet surface of our dark tones gives us a lovely pattern. Okay. But that little playful light, more suggestive light. I'm not going to do it everywhere. That might be just enough. Little mystery. Okay, a bit too similar. So let's smudge them. Right, I can see a little extra light here as well. So as we have tiny dabs of columns and the tops, I just touching my window. On this side might stay a bit more on the cool side. Okay. So on the warm side. That might be there. Just popping out from that shadow. Right, good. I enjoyed my turquoise, my blues. Okay, let's have a look at our warms for the medium darkness. Right, can I finish these ones? I haven't quite led them all the way down. Oh, and this light as well, sorry. My arch here on the side. Let's use a little bit of buff titanium with my greens, blues. Lovely. So we continue with our medium darknesses, but I'm going to work now into our warm colors. Right, let's start with some of the pinks. Got my warm brush out. I think I've got some white and orangey Naples yellow something in here. So this is just opaque color. So white, Naples yellow. Let's start with a magenta-ish pink. I just need a tiny bit of darker version of it. Could go for a small amount of ochre there, a bit more magenta. Okay, and let's see where we can introduce this pinkish color. Perhaps for this part of the wall. Let's just see if it's dark enough. Maybe not. Let's make it, oops, sorry, wrong color. Let's see if we can add maybe a tiny hint of violet to it. I think my pink, that's better. My pink is very pale. Yeah, that's better. So let's find some flat color in between these little windows. And maybe a similar pink start some of these towers. And also partially stretches out in between our triangle pointy pattern. Okay. Our shadows will change, will be less bulky. Okay, so a bit of pink there. Looks like I can probably finish the whole wall with the same pink, but I'd rather not. Let's spot where we can bring some more pink. And also partially integrate it with some of our cool colors. Now, every time we paint all of our cool colors, we'll have more of a three-dimensional effect. But if we rub too much, we'll end up with mud or we'll end up with gray color. So let's see if we can just almost thickly apply the paint and then stop. Let's see if that will give us a little extra benefit of warm and cool contrasts. Okay. And I might bring some of that pink elsewhere. I think it's way too wide line. Maybe later on I can shrink it a bit more. Because now I'm just going to smudge it more than improve it. Okay. Okay, it's coming from here. Okay, it's a little bit more lost and found little color scheme, color options. Don't like the dark corner as a line, so I want to have that line a bit lost. Okay, good. Anything else in here? That's okay. These need to be a bit darker. This could be changing. Okay. Right, let's go for a different red. Different warm colors, shall I say. I'm gonna go for cadmium yellow in my little bit of a mucky palette here. I'm gonna go for cadmium red. And let's have a deeper color before we get extra depth. Okay, maybe a little bit on the column here. The stiffer brush is better because we'll start actually placing the color. We'll also be bringing some of this red as a little Christmas color. So I'm going to start testing it out maybe against some of the paler blues. It's part of them. I think furniture there, maybe a cushion or maybe it's something. I can't quite see what it is. Might be some light effect. The back, maybe this with alizarin crimson and tiny bit of violet. That might be another lovely combination color. I might just tidy my window. And have a deeper, darker, reddish blocks. Okay, that's a lovely deep violet. So I'm back into the shadows, but they're part of my build up here. Okay, let's see if we'll see that structure a little bit more. Now in our design, we came up with a lovely light here. So let's remember that light. I just need a bigger brush for it. Let's go for buff titanium first. If it's not bold enough as in light and as saturation, maybe I can add more. But I think it might just give me a bit more. That might be a little bit too dull. Right, where else I can use this color? Okay, planning a tiny bit of extra light here. Okay, might be a bit too heavy-handed. It's quite a lot of paint in there. Well, at least that pink is not just a lot of same pink now, but a little more of something else there. Right, let's go for my light for Naples yellow. Let's test that one out. Let's see if direct Naples yellow. I do like that light here. Let's bring some of that color, which is not on a photo, but which worked for our composition. Okay, this is just meant to be a little bit of extra shadows. So when alizarin crimson starts being lovely, got that beautiful pinky deep red, violety red. Okay, that's quite festive in color. I'm liking that one better now. So I can add some of that crimson and violet. Okay, that's better. Okay, should I just do strokes the other way? Then the same strokes on the screen, if I've done a different direction, they reflect differently. So it's exactly the same color, but let me redirect them. That's better. So they're a little pyramid of things. So let's make them less silly. They will still have that appearance of quirky shapes. Okay. Right, and can I bring that lovely, lovely light again elsewhere? Maybe somewhere this way, so that more alizarin crimson and violet. Doesn't have to be very dark. If you don't want it to be too dark, have a tiny hint of white in it, or even better, some ochre. because we'll make it lighter, but it will keep that lovely warmth there. Okay, and let's test this one here. Looks too light. Okay, that's a bit broken. But what I can do, I can make a couple of these shapes a bit more blocky. Well, let's see. So from transparent layer, we can have a bit of an opaque layer. So some of my opaque layers will start going, and some of them will remain. Yeah, I quite like the idea of this being dark. So I'm going to lose some of my lines again. It's all part of the build-up process. Okay, here I wanted this line shrinking. Again, tidying up the borders of my window. So then the stained glass start to appear a little fresher. If I were to tidy the window frame, I will use a very, very small brush in a couple of areas. I think they are quite wide, these marks still. But there's little full stops and a little play. I think that could be okay. Okay. Right, stepping back from the picture, I quite like my extra dark part of the ceiling here. So I'd like to play on that, and I did promise that we will use some extra darker tone within our shadows. Just checking what's happening here as well, how things are sitting in here. So let's bring some of the extra darker tone to part of the ceiling. Less opaque, more opaque, less transparency. So I have ultramarine. Blue-gray will give me more opacity, but if you don't have blue-gray, just a bit of white. A dab of Payne's Grey, but actually I could have just gone for some crimson. It will still stay more into the blue side of things. Right, I think another dark shape we could have. It's going to be somewhere here. and I'll blend it with my existing color. And I think I'm going to bring some of it back to this column. If it will sit there at all. And I just need to persevere. Okay, it breaks it down into sub textures as well, which is nice. If you want a darker color, go for crimson and Payne's grey. I want that one to be stronger, deeper color. Now we can look at the background. So if I'm adding more darkness, do I need to go warm or cool? I'm just looking at this area. Is that warm or cool area? Okay, that's a group of warm colors, so maybe I'll use them a bit more. Okay, maybe a different variety of warm colors, but there's more of the warms there. Okay. And this one needs to come here. Okay, this is a little bit too strong. In darkness and in red. So let's bring anything from our cool medium palette. I'm going for Payne's grey, bluey grey. Let's see how that smudges in. Bring the curvature back. Brush splits into segments, actually good for Gothic structures. Okay, I don't want anything shiny in there. Right, anything else darker? Okay, that's good. This is a little bit confusing how many lines I've got. Maybe again, simplify, simplify, simplify. These are a little bit too wide. Narrow them down. Okay. We enjoyed having a little bit of highlights here. Let's bring them back a little. I just put a lovely shadow in there. So maybe the light is going to be just a small amount. Okay, that's quite nice. Is it reflecting or is it just the color? Uneven. Oops, wrong brush. On that heat I'm looking for a flatter color here first, as I'm ready to start adding some Christmassy lights. Okay, I'm improvising some extra color and some of the Gothic pattern. Maybe bolder color next to the windows, and definitely no wobbles. Okay, that's good. Now, cadmium red, quite like chunks of it, really placed as little dabs of maybe reflecting light, maybe of something hanging there in bows, bubbles. Okay, there. Anything else around here? Some major warm areas are not lost without a red. And that volume of red will have to be somehow in reflection of the floor. Okay, so my furniture might have been, let's bring a little more of the furniture. I've got a bit of violet, a bit of runny Payne's gray. Let's put a group of chairs. Pews. Something reading. Okay, and then that again, that red could become shiny parts of the tables or tops, handles, as well as a little bit of cool color, maybe for some of the verticals. Okay, doesn't quite tell us exactly what it is, but it's enough of an impression as the church furniture. Just trying to get slightly darker shadow. Okay, that's way too green. Okay, something there. Good, good, good. My flat floor is no longer flat. It's got more depth. It's got more light. So my red patterns now become just part of that variety of the floor. Might have been patterns, might have been reflections, might have been all sorts of things. Good. Good, good, good. Now let's clarify some of the light and let's get more of that festive light in as well. I just want to have a little bit more clarity here. A little bit of darker texture. Okay, it didn't work. Okay. Fresh white doesn't quite sit well here. It just way over reflecting and just doesn't do anything. Okay, but I can play. I think I can play with a little bit of cool light. I'll just get a little more blue-gray, you know, in this area, just to balance it with the volume of warm colors. I can cool it off with paler blues, but quite thick. So my blue-gray, maybe a dab of turquoise, emerald green with it, so it becomes more of a turquoise. I just put a dab. Yeah, I think that will do. So where shall we put it? Perhaps against here. Very fresh stroke, so thick paint on the tip of the brush and keep topping it up because you will be lifting loads of warm colors. Okay, this might be a little heavy-handed corner here. Okay, and I'm going to put a little dabs of it. Let's do some lights. Of a cluster of them. The smaller the dabs, the better. I'm going to use a bit of artistic license and see if this same color could go as a bit of a pattern of light. Okay, I think that's much better. And that balances that part. This is a bit too big. Okay. Yeah, that white works better than the darker tan. Okay. This might be my option. Okay, that's way too bright color for what I wanted, but it's almost cleaned the surface here. Okay. That's quite good. And that's still a little bit too solid. Okay, now just tweak this bit. Good. Exciting, we're getting that boldness of the color. Right, I'm gonna do last few strokes of my warm light of Naples yellow anywhere against the cooler surfaces. This might be the light, it might be the reflections of candles from below, it might be the magic, how it feels for us when we walk in that environment. Now the Naples yellow goes harder against the blue, so extra fresh color top up is important. Now, if you decide not to put these dabs, that's okay. But I think these little dabs just cheer the more flatter painting or more content painting. Okay, I don't know if that's too much or not, but put some more of the bolder ones on my hair as well. Going quite thick now with my paint. Just going more intuitively rather than looking at the photo. Right, and I do want a little bit of that warmth of the light at the bottom on my floor. Maybe too thick. Too thick, it just picked up a lot of blue, so it's start to be more green. So I'm combining now. I'm unifying my warm and cool colors. I'm doing a little bit of combining of shapes. This is playful as well. That's nice. A little bit of fiery light. Just a little bit of a fiery light. I think I'm happy to stop. There's quite a lot of flat surface at the top. Yeah. A bit of a plain area here as well. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Now without dots, at any point, if you think it's too much, you can always smudge some of them. But I think that little improvisation and playfulness of the strokes are very exciting as a Christmassy theme, as a little variation, finding your feel about the interior, and perhaps illuminating more of the warmer colors or cooler colors and have more simplified color scheme with that light. So variations are very welcome and will make your work more and more personal. Thank you very much for today. I hope you enjoyed playing with the rhythm and build up of cool and warm shapes, and then put in a little bit of extra improvisation. I think there are a few things I can tweak, but I'm going to keep it quite festive and impressionistic here. Thank you very, very much, and I look forward to see what you will end up with your festive Selby Abbey. Thank you.